My name is Brandon Sanchez, and in this presentation I will address interiority and densification through perceptions, probes, and projections. In the first section, I will cover perceptions. First, we must discuss the qualities of interiority. These qualities are centripetal, concave, involute, mystery, pressure, and thickness. There is an ever-growing need for urban densification, and prior to the case study at hand, we looked toward New York City as precedent. Here, a GPS heat map shows an area around the High Line. The area is one of the densest in New York City. At the High Line, one can begin to observe various latent space objects. Here, we look at the west side of the Standard Hotel and can observe a space object that exhibits qualities such as pressure. Next, we have a moment between the High Line and 520 West 28th Street by Zaha Hadid Architects. The resultant space object pinches between and undulates around the facade before opening outwards. Furthermore, the perspective of the shot helps to emphasize the pressure and interiority as it pulls the viewer into the center focal point. The following section will cover probes. The case study at hand is the People's Park Complex in Singapore. The exterior assets of the building begin with the vertical lifts along one facade. We can observe the articulation of massing along the main tower. This can be broken into several repeating objects that stack upward along the lifts. The interior assets of the tower include vertical load-bearing walls that follow the pattern of the lifts. These are visible both inside and outside. The floor plates are simply repeating horizontal elements that fit into the previously mentioned stacked objects. Together, these elements display a regular grid emphasized by the exterior vertical lifts. As the tower currently stands, we can begin to speculate on a possible existing space object. Resulting from the space between the lifts and the stacking nature of the tower, the object can be shown to exhibit involution and pressure as the lifts and space between them continue vertically and terminate above the roof. Next, I became interested in the photography of Michael Wolff and his ability to capture mystery in the dense urban environment of Hong Kong. Here we see facades with only a picture frame as a boundary and no context. The assumed continuity and articulation of the facade gives a strong sense of mystery. The shots capture a perspective that fogs facade form and certainty of color or materiality. Another photographer that I'm interested in is Joran Peters. His photography effortlessly creates a focal point through isolation and minimalism. The directionality of the architecture and lack of context provides only one place for the eyes to focus. Lastly, Peter Stewart, a photographer that shows a very strong sense of interiority in a lot of his shots. Through various perspectives against a sky backdrop, he shows many notions and qualities of interiority, such as pressure, involution, and even concavity. This shot by Peter Stewart shows perspective directionality at a larger, more urban scale. The use of long exposure with a wide lens allows for a clear directionality in the shot. The following section will cover projections. Here I will focus on the qualities of pressure, concave, and involute. Again, we see Michael Wolff's photo. This inspired a greater understanding of how to articulate the facade in a way to complement the space object. Color and texture here are stepped upward with the structure in order to address pressure. Furthermore, the articulation of the facade above the lifts exhibit an involute quality. Next, in order to express other qualities, perspective is used to force directionality and show the concavity of the alteration at an urban scale from a greater distance. Here we see the underbelly of the alteration, which is composed without context in a minimalist fashion. This allows for a clear and obvious focal point that exhibits the concavity, pressure, and involute qualities of the latent space object. Next, we see the massing and identification of the alteration. The resulting space object is shown to exist within the stepping area and the space above the lifts. In order to better explain the qualities, the facade is coded to show elements that work together in order to create interiority. The yellow is sampled from the existing tower and is the element from which the remaining alteration elements step out and above. Here we can see the pressure between the top and bottom of the alteration. Finally, this last section will look at the triptych. Here we see the triptych assembled from left to right. The triptych here is shown with a single void in place of the sky. This is to show the compositional efforts of each image as one scene. The arrows here are used to show the intended viewer directionality of the triptych. This directionality is the result of each focal point. The first image shows a strong left justified focal point, with the third image showing a right justified focal point that is tied together with the more subtle center focal point of the second image, which points to the true center of the entire triptych. Thank you for your time.